Hey everybody, Tyree here with Before I Forget, along with Kevin. Say hey, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
We got it right this time. Look at that. And here we are with another episode of Before I Forget, man.
We
And
are we are back with another episode. Um, man, after having those couple of weeks off and then having last week's episode out and then now today's, so it'll be good. We just like I said in that clip a while back, really good episodes coming out with some really positive people hoping to spread their positive message. And today is no different. Today we have Derrick Ross, former Army combat engineer, 12 Bravo for you military types, with deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, and doing some pretty cool positive things for his community. Derrick, go ahead and say hi.
How's it going, everybody? It's nice to meet everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
hey, man.
Yeah, dude. So yeah, let's jump right in and get our entire bodies wet. Tyree, what's your question?
I'm gonna hit him with the OG question of the day. Why did you join the military?
Oh man. Okay. Man. Um, so ever since I can remember, um, I always wanted to be a soldier. I'd always watched documentaries, on the History Channel about World War II, Vietnam, and did you hear that
Yeah,
noise?
no. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right. Can you give me just a moment?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, no problem.
Something else is playing.
Technical difficulties over there.
Just a moment. All right. Here we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
Sorry. Some music started playing on my laptop. I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst time. All right. So yeah, growing up from being a very small kid, all I wanted to do was be a soldier. I would see these documentaries on the World War II and Vietnam. I'm like, man, those people are doing some really crazy shit. They're blowing things up, like going all through all sorts of things, and that kind of like spoke to me, as a very young kid. And of course, I would watch GI Joe and like Transformers, and it was always like this very strong male figure, um, fighting for their people, and I respected that. And then fast forward to I think it was sixth grade when 9/11 happened. And I mean, I saw how my teachers, I saw how like other kids were reacting in school. And man, I didn't want them to hurt like that. I wanted to protect them. I felt this kind of calling from that age. And then after that, I essentially like lined up my life to prepare myself for military service. I was in sports. I mean, I was when I got to high school, I was doing preseason workout before school, weightlifting class during school, sports after school, and then I would go home and run. And man, I was really getting after it back then. Not so much now. Um, but you know, another thing that kind of compelled me was it's just kind of random, but we would go to parades in Chicago, and I'd look around, and everyone was happy. Everyone was very peaceful. Everyone was having a good time, and there was nothing there that was harming that, and then when 9/11 happened, I was like, man, I don't care how long it takes. Hopefully the war is over by the time I'm old enough. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but uh, man, yeah, I decided right then and there, like, I don't care how long it takes. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna fight these people. It's like no one's gonna fuck with us. Like that was kind of my mindset about it. And so I lined everything up, and then I joined up at 17 years old. Went to basic training in between junior and senior year, and then MOS training after I graduated. And at that time, I was reservist and 89 Bravo ammo specialist. I kind of had this mindset of I need to just get in the army as fast as possible. and however that looks like is however it looks like. And so I did, and then man, I did my first deployment, man. Excuse me, back up just a second. So I did my MLS training, did a few years at the reserve, or excuse me, a few months at the reserves, and then I was like, this is not it. I need this full time. Like this is a bunch of BS. Like I need this full time. So I went active duty as an 89 Bravo, got deployed under a year after getting on active duty. So I was a little 19-year-old, turned 20 in Iraq, and before I actually went on active duty, I think my unit was already in country in Iraq. Yeah, because they had been there, I think 10 or 11 months total by the time I got to them. Yeah. Yeah. Every
What
class after that deployment.
what was it about the reserves when you were doing that you were like, this is not, I need to do full time? Was it because the reserves just wasn't living up to the hype, or if there is any hype, or because you got a taste of it and you're like, this is what I want to do, but this isn't enough of it?
So my experience is kind of unique. I was the timing of it, like my unit had just been started, and I was literally the only guy in my unit. So I was just like nothing, showing up and then talking to some random NCO in the building. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're the only guy here from that unit." And then after like a few drills, um, if I remember correctly, like an E5 showed up, two sergeant majors showed up, and so it was just like four of us or a few of us. And then like slowly as we continued to drill for a few months, some more people showed up, and it was just basically like showing up, going to eat sandwiches at lunchtime, and scrolling social media, like doing nothing. There was nothing to check on or work or clean. Like we sweep and mop, of course, the army.
Mhm.
Do that every day.
So
And
yeah, you got the full Army Reserve experience right there.
Man,
yeah.
you have a very different experience from a lot of the people that we've had on the show, seeing as you're a lot younger
Mhm.
uh, than a lot of the people that we've had on. Um, I want to say 98% of the people that we've spoken to, they were in the military when 9/11 happened.
Oh wow.
You were very young.
Mhm.
Um, how did that affect the people around you at the time? Because, I mean, sixth grade, right? How
Yeah.
did you guys deal with that? I mean, I know
Uh,
how us military folks deal with it. How did kids deal with it?
um, that's actually a good question. I've actually never thought about that. At the time, I know a lot of us were just confused. I mean, for me, I was like, all right, I'm gonna fight these people. What can I do now to start preparing for it? I remember looking at the Army Times a lot. They would post a bunch of deployment photos. Um, I don't, I don't even know, man. Like I never thought about like how these other kids were affected. I kind of had like, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it, and I just need to keep doing it until it's time to go.
That is a
I,
crazy, not to cut you off, man, but that is like a crazy young age to be deciding something like that. Because I mean, sixth grade, you're what, 13, 14 years old. I mean,
yeah.
you're just now getting into the swing of puberty, and you're over here deciding, when I'm able to join the military, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to war. I'm going to go fight these people for what they did in New York. Um, that's a crazy young age to decide that that's something that you're going to do, and basically like force yourself to kind of grow up into that. Like it's I say that because like I didn't know I was going to join the military until like the month before I signed my contract. I had no desire to join. You know what I'm saying? When I remember in the early 90s, I guess, or late 80s, whenever that movie came out, the movie Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen.
Mhm.
I remember when that come out, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. You know, I wanted three things from that movie: be a Navy SEAL, own an MP5, and own a Jeep. And I went Army instead, and I got the other two. But like,
Two out of
but
three, yeah, man.
But like, I never wanted to, like, it wasn't like a dream of mine. But I guess I say that to, like, in the 90s growing up, there wasn't anything really big going on. I mean, the first Gulf War, but I was 10, 11 years old. Mogadishu was about the same age, but the bulk of the 90s was pretty chill. And so there wasn't anything that was like, I want to go do that. I want to go be all that I can be. You know what I mean? And so in sixth grade, shit,
Yeah.
man. In sixth grade, I was deciding which girl I had a crush on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was the God. Like that is heavy. Like not only that, but knowing full well that you want to go into combat basically from such a young age.
Yeah.
Kevin hit the nail on the head. I mean, we're thinking about, if you like me, check the box on the paper at that point as young people. But you're saying, hey man, I'm gonna I want that uniform. I want to get in the dirt. I want to, fight it out. Like that's
Yeah.
it takes a different kind of kid to go that route from that age, man.
And there's nobody in your family that served?
No. I think one of my uncles served in the Air Force, and one of my cousins did time in the National Guard. But this was like way before
Yeah.
the GWAT.
Well, and so the thing, okay, man, that's wild. Okay, so I've been a drill sergeant in the reserves for a long time. And so I've seen trainees, 17, 18-year-olds back in 2009 and 17, 18-year-olds as of last year. And I always ask the same question, like, what got you here? Why are you in the Army? Like, why did you join? And I use that to help motivate them along the way. The answers have changed wildly over that time frame. Back then, it was patriotism. It was, my dad was in, my uncle was in. I come from a family history. I've got a member of my family in every major war since the founding of the United States. And this last go around, a lot of those kids were like, well, they offered me $45,000 enlistment bonus, $60,000 college. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay. So what about patriotism? What about the United States of America? What about the flag? What about any of that stuff? Like, well, I mean, that stuff's cool, I guess, but that wasn't really like a motive. Wow, that's a wild thing. But to be in sixth grade
Yeah.
and with no history, no family history of military service, to be in sixth grade being like, just off these documentaries, those must have been some good documentaries, man.
History Channel, man.
Yeah. Back when it was good, back when it
Yes.
was good, not reality shows.
Yeah.
That's wild though. So you join, right? You get your chance to deploy. Was it everything you thought it would be?
No. I felt like there was a lot of I didn't really understand the Army. I actually didn't fully understand a lot of it until I actually got retired. Because man, it's just there's just no like there's a lot of things that people don't tell you. And I had other dreams to do even more and stay in longer and retire. Fortunately, that didn't happen. Um, could you ask that question again?
I already forgot what I asked. Tyree, what did I ask? Man,
Yeah.
I was thinking about what you were saying, and yeah, it skipped my brain. No, it's just like about your deployment. Like, was it what you thought it would be? Like,
Yeah.
did it go where you wanted it to go?
um, so it didn't go the way I wanted it to go, and I didn't really know what a deployment looked like because on my first one I was a ammo specialist, and we're supposed to run the ammo supply point and issue out all the rounds and everything to the units. And then we didn't even do that because the Army in infinite wisdom hired a bunch of civilians to do our jobs, and so we were just kind of there, like, what do we do now? And our commander got with, I think it was first Cav was at Cobb Batter, and then they essentially put us on like gun truck missions to um, protect the KBR convoys, like all the supply convoys. And so we would drive from Cobb Adder all the way up to Joint Base Balad and dude, we would hit Camp Liberty, Taji, Joint Base Balad. I think we did a few other places during that time, but it was always at night, and so you couldn't really see much except for the road and the little mice that would run into the road, like they looked like small kangaroos, little tiny mice. Like never
Man,
understood.
that's gotta be a scary time though. Like when we were in Iraq, so we mostly hung out in the city. We were mechanized infantry with first ID, and we just we stayed. We were very rarely on the MSR. Maybe if we were going to Anaconda, but like otherwise we were in town. But like when we we would hear stories while we were there and speaking to folks after the fact, like everybody running up and down the MSR for supply runs or this or that, man, soft targets left and right, IEDs, like they were the target of the subject of ambushes all the time. So I couldn't even imagine like that being like your AO, like driving up and down with all these other people who may or may not have the proper training or experience to be doing what they're doing on top of hauling what you're hauling. You know what I mean? Like that, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I want to say we maybe got like 2 pop shots on us.
Really?
And yeah, one time we were moving. The only reason I say I want to say it is because like I definitely heard the whiz.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this was like when I was fairly new there. I was like, I spoke to my squad leader, who's the TC of the truck, and I was like, "Hey, what's this noise?" And he just responded like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just standing here." And he like fucking pulls me down. He's like, "Don't fucking stand, idiot!" Like, oh, okay. You don't know what you don't know. No,
Yeah.
you do, and then yeah, reality sets in.
Like, oh yeah, I should probably duck when I hear
Yeah.
that.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
it's funny. That was, of course, we were infantry, so all of our training was combat related, and so the whole like ducking when you hear something going off, like that was, we knew to do that, but we trained that way. Towards the end of the deployment, however, we just didn't do it as much because you're like, listen, when they initiate contact, if they don't hit anybody right then, they're probably not going to hit anybody. So there's no reason to really get down.
Yeah. There was more times than not these people couldn't hit water if they jumped off a bridge. So pretty wild stuff.
That's stupid.
It's the truth, man. How many times have you gotten shot at and then you're just like, wow, there it goes.
Oh, I know. It's it reminds me of a movie, but I can't remember what the movie is, but it's basically like somebody's just firing at the person. He's like, he should be hit because he's like,
Pulp Fiction.
Is it Pulp Fiction? Yeah. Like what? How did you? Yeah, exactly.
How'd you miss?
How'd you? Come on. I'm standing here. I'm giving you the entire target. Um. So okay. So who did you go over with?
Uh, 24th Ordnance Company. That was for my Iraq deployment. So we were a small like detachment. Our main people were in Fort Stewart, and then there was a small detachment of us at Fort Benning.
Okay.
So
Out of Georgia. And then you come back and you said, well, I don't want to do was it 89 Bravo? I don't want to do that anymore. I'm gonna go do something cool, but not all the way cool. So you went 12 Bravo.
oh,
Like
yeah,
I want to do the hard thing, but not all the way hard.
we were walking in front of you guys.
For you guys listening, the people who clear the way, they're I can't even explain how much danger they're in before we get there more often than not because they have to clear the way for this shit. They have to clear the mines out. They have to clear the obstacles under fire. Could you imagine doing your job with half the town trying to kill you?
Yeah.
That's what these guys were doing, and that's fucking heavy, man. Hats off to those fucking guys who do that shit, man. Round of applause from the fucking world class support.
Are you really gonna yeah.
Yeah.
So and so on that point, so for those that are not familiar with how it works in the military, in the Army, we have combat arms, Marines too, and obviously, like the best is the infantry. Everyone knows that, and so you have your 11 Bravos, your infantry guys, your 12 Bravos, your combat engineers. You got your Cav Scouts. What are they? 19 Deltas. Tankers, artillery dudes, 13 Bravos. I'll give 13 Mikes a break too. So we're all combat arms and 18 series special forces, but they're a whole different class of people. And we all talk shit to each other, right? Because like that's just how it is. We're rivals on the same team, and we all act like we're Billy Badass on the street. But the truth is, we're all equally badass, except the infantry is a little bit more badass because it's so And we like to say, when we were in basic training, man, it's beaten to our heads. Like we are like the queen of battle for a reason. We're the queen on the chessboard. We can go anywhere, anytime. But like Tyree said, and like kind of what you were saying, we can't move there unless the engineers have cleared the way. You know what I'm saying? So it's it's a group effort. The artillery will soften the targets. The engineers will destroy bridges or take out targets that need to be taken out to slow the advance of the bad guys, or
build a bridge.
Or build a bridge to help our advance. And then the tanks come in and they just blast holes through things. I was so glad to have it. We had a platoon of Abrams with us when we were over there. So glad to have those guys. And you've seen the buildings in Iraq. There was no need for an Abrams in town, but we had them. We had 2 of them. And Cav Scouts. I think we can all agree Cav Scouts are probably the most useless of the combat arms. I'm a forward observer. Well, we do that too in the infantry, but whatever. But there's a quote that I that all this reminds me of, and this is why I like to say that the infantry is like, the better one, and it's not true by any means. But so you can bomb a hill, you can blow it up and kill every bastard on it, but until a 19-year-old grunt stands on it with his rifle, it belongs to no one. And so a World War II veteran in a documentary on the History Channel said it best. The infantry fights the last 100 meters of battle. Everybody can clear the way and get there, but we have to go there and actually like clear the way. But it is a unified effort, and I love that we talk shit about each other. It's the best part, because 2 infantry battalions can go toe to toe. They can fight each other. Well, we're the better battalion. No, we're the better battalion. Blah blah blah, and then we fight. And then the artillery dudes will show up, and then the 2 infantry battalions or the 2 infantry groups will get together and fight the artillery guys. And then the tankers will show up, and they'll start talking shit, and then we all start fighting each other. And then the 12 Bravos will show up, and the Cav Scouts will show up, and we're all fighting each other. And then the MPs show up, or a bunch of Pogues, non-combat arms people show up, and we're all like, what? And then we all join together to fight them.
Oh, man.
That's been one of my favorite things about being combat arms in the Army, man, is like, it doesn't matter what combat arms you are, if it's a 12 Bravo, 13 Bravo, 11 Bravo, whatever, like, we all do a job that nobody wants to fucking do.
It takes a special person, man. And your friends are always the fucking craziest ones.
Yeah. So what was it that made you go 12 Bravo? Like, what was that whole reclass thought process and all of that?
Okay, so I love being outside of the wire. I love like getting to see the country, the people, and I hated being in garrison, and I hated being on the fob. Like, why did I travel across the earth to just stand around and sit around and do nothing? Like, I'm here for a reason. I spent like years of my life preparing for this. Man, I don't want to just come here and like waste time, And one of my friends had deployed before, and he mentioned, hey, combat engineers are always outside the wire. They're always doing something on mission, and they get to blow a lot of shit up. And I was like, oh, okay. You're like, all right, you're speaking my language now. And so it was like right after the Iraq deployment, we found out that everyone in our MOS at our rank, I was a specialist at the time, our MOS was overpowered, and the Army had the option to reclass for 4 years and gain a different MOS. And so I was like, man, I'm doing this. Let's go. Like, this is going to get me out there. Like, exactly where I need to go. And so I reclassed, and then went from Benning to um, so I got stationed. I was at Benning, and then I went to Fort Wainwright.
Okay.
That's what the unit was.
Up Alaska.
Yeah,
Man, I bet you it's beautiful up there.
it was, man. At that time, I regret so much about that my time up there because now I'm a huge outdoorsman, and back then I was like a city slicker, and I was like, oh, the outdoors sucks, whatever. Like,
Mhm.
oh man, I had the Chena River like right behind my barracks too. It was beautiful, man. It was Alaska's gorgeous. It really is. But
It
you're right.
sucks that you don't realize it until it's gone. Like,
Yeah.
fuck. It was, I feel that every time we were in Germany and like like once a week, I'm like, fuck, I used to live in a different country. It was beautiful. I can go, if I wanted to, I can go down to Paris today.
Yeah.
And then, time flies and you're like, oh, memories. You want to try to go back and visit later. Hopefully you can go back and visit at some point and
Oh
camp
yeah.
out, I
I plan
guess.
on going up there for caribou, maybe a moose hunt.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that good of a hunter yet. So, but that's the goal, man. Definitely want to go back up there.
So you went 12 Bravo, you're gonna blow shit up, and then you get up at Wainwright. Man, and it was funny, and not to kind of like break off from that, but like every single person that I've talked to who has been stationed in Alaska at first was like, "Ah, really, it's so cold and it's a frozen tundra wasteland. And then they get there and they're like, this place is amazing. Like I have not met one person who has been stationed in Alaska who hated it. Not one, which is wild to me because I've met people who were stationed in Europe who were like, not really my cup of tea.
People in
But
Hawaii.
yeah, Hawaii, like, oh, they're excited to go to Hawaii, and then the island fever kicks in, like, oh, I only have these 3-4 places to go, and it's all so fucking expensive, you know.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, shout out to the people in Hawaii right now. Another sidetrack. Maui is on fire. It looked like a nuke went off there. I was just there a couple weeks ago. If you can donate in any way possible, please do so.
it's funny you say that because Derek, you have a fundraiser on your Instagram for that you sent to me. Have you looked at those numbers lately? What they've gained?
No, the last time I checked, I think it was like 1.3 million or something like that.
They're at 1.9 now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Their goal was a million. So this campaign was launched on the 9th. You sent it to me on the 10th, and on at that point, when I saw it, they were at 1.5 million the next day. Their goal was a million. They exceeded that by $500,000, and they're almost doubling it now. And here we are recording the 13th. So that is pretty impressive. And yeah, that does suck for them a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, man.
A beautiful place, man. And to see the pictures and the death toll is still going up. I believe right now it's at 86. Um, the entire community I mean, it's hard to understand when I'm saying the entire community. Imagine an entire town, city, half the size of LA, maybe gone like that. And it hurts me a lot because, like I said, we were just there. We go there once a year. And it's not for the resort type shit. It's the people who live there, the people who are really in the communities, the people who work there, that kind of shit. They lost everything. So please, if you can donate to them, do so. I mean, don't get on a plane and try to go over there and help out because that ain't how you do it right now. It's just donations are the key. So do that. And now we can go back to our normal conversation.
Yeah. All right. So you're in Alaska. You are now a 12 Bravo officially. Now you get the chance to go blow shit up. Like, does your quality of life in the Army change? Are you like finally excited to be a part of it?
Um, yeah, yeah. Actually, I was. I know a lot of people are. They think it's cool to like complain about all the training and all that, but like, and a lot of people say don't take yourself so seriously. One of my biggest regrets was like the amount of partying that I did up there, instead of studying my craft and being like the most lethal at it. I didn't really get this mindset until I spent a lot of time with the people I currently do now. Um, and I wish I had it back then, man, because that's a lot of precious time wasted. And I mean, think about it. If every soldier, every warrior took more time training instead of, as soon as work got off and went and started drinking right away, like they would be 100 times more lethal than we are now. This
Yeah.
might be. But hey, you got to blow off some steam somehow, and I just wish I knew um, more healthy alternatives that I do now, and I wish that people in the military could use some of the things that I use now. So,
What are some things that you use now?
um, I don't use it as a cure, but I take a lot of CBD, and then Texas also passed the um, medicinal marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
I got that, and I use it as kind of like as just another tool. And it's kind of the same thing. You have to have the right mindset. You can't go into it thinking you're going to be Cheech and Chong every day. You gotta find your right dose. You gotta, the right amount that will actually work instead of put you on the couch and all that. And so you do gotta respect it just like you would a pill, and handle it just like you would a pill.
Yeah, we definitely advocate for the use of cannabis here on this channel. Right now, Kevin can't because he's still
Yeah.
in. I know a couple of shops I could tell you about if you ever come to LA. So
All
I'm
right.
definitely a fan of that. It's a million times better than alcohol. It's better for your, I mean, everything hurts your body, but it's not as bad as everything else. And it makes you chill, man. I've never gotten into a boxing fight while a little stoned, man. We
Yeah.
had deep conversations, but no animosity.
Well, and we
Yeah.
and we we recorded with a guy. Was that Amsler Gage?
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a while. It's been a while, but so this guy was he was a special operations medic and an overseas contractor, and was doing civilian medical things up in Michigan, and was practicing with the uses of cannabis and various strains. And he would like meticulously document, like, this person has this ailment and they're using this strain. Here's what works. Here's what didn't. Here's the effects. Blah blah blah. And then would kind of move from there and then adjust, make adjustments as needed, to where he could identify if this is what ails you, this is the strain for you. And on a rotation, he wrote a book about it. He was on a rotation as a contractor, handpicked by the Pentagon apparently, and up in Afghanistan came across some like legitimate like Hindu Kush, and was like, "There's no way I'm leaving this on this mountain," and found a way to smuggle it back to the U.S., where he then adapted that into the strains that he was already working with.
Nice.
And last I heard, he was working with some company in California, Northern California, and was going to get his some of his strains put out there. So that's really interesting.
That's good.
Like Tyree said, I don't because I am still in, and I follow the rules. But I definitely, I see the benefit of it for sure. I see people who desperately needed it, and then started using it, and to the point where, like you said, like, just finding out how much you need to kind of soften the blow of whatever it is you're processing through, um and then function. So yeah, it is a great tool. Not something like anything, I don't want to say unnatural either, because I guess cannabis is natural. um it shouldn't be overly used.
Yeah.
Just,
Everything's always
yeah,
in moderation
yeah, moderation, that's the word. um
here for you.
so CBD, cannabis, do you look at, like you said, you're an outdoorsman now, like, do you look at that as a way to kind of help a lot of that stuff too?
Yes. Okay. So let me just tell you something. So I saw it working in real time. A long time ago when I did my first like DIY public land hunt, I kind of got to this point in life where I'm like, man, I want to hunt. You know what? I'm just gonna put a call to action on Instagram, and I made this post saying that I'm going to be here at this time during this time period, and it's like archery, whitetail hunt, and it's public land. This is what you need. If you're in, like, let me know, because I was just going to show up on my own. And what ended up happening is my buddy Roel, he's also an infantryman. He shows up, or he confirms with me, and that he's going to go. And then before the hunt actually happens, he reaches out and he's like, "Hey, I got two of my buddies coming out." And so what ended up happening is the guy is one of his buddies that he deployed with to Iraq in '09 is living in Texas, and then another guy is living in California somewhere, I forget. That guy drove all the way here from California, and I kind of felt like the fourth wheel to the hunt that I put together. But it was awesome, man, because to see people maneuvering again quietly, sneaking in on the deer. It's creating new memories, and peaceful ones, and beautiful ones, because you're out in nature, like fresh air. Just the land is beautiful. It's peaceful. You see the sunrise, you see the sunset. If you're out there all day, no one's shooting at you. Well, if you're not wearing orange, it's guaranteed you're gonna get shot. No, it's not. Yeah.
I like how you put that though. So especially those of us in the combat arms realm, where we're trained to move a certain way through urban environments, wooded environments, whatever. And so we're in training through the military. We're trained to do that, with the intent of being violent towards another human. And a lot of people can have adverse effects to that later on in life, especially if they actually have to go do that in real life, outside of practice. So going out into the woods to utilize that same training in a completely different way, I can see like kind of reprogramming those patterns, those synapses, those neural pathways, because originally those neural pathways are connected to, I'm doing this to go kill somebody, I'm doing this to go kill somebody, and now you're doing it to hunt. I mean, yeah, you're killing an animal, but like for a purpose. Like hunting has a purpose. I mean, I guess you could argue that war has a purpose too, but I think most people would agree that war is the last resort, the thing that we don't want to do. Whereas you got to eat, Yeah. And hunting is a good skill to have. I wish I had better skills at it. I'm really not that great at it.
Yeah.
But I didn't grow up hunting, and I've gone twice as an adult by myself, and I don't really know what to do. And last year when I went out, or the last time that I went out, I guess you'd say, I was in a good spot. I got to researching like, okay, here's where deer typically go. Here's where I should be in relation to where I think deer should be. Here's what to look for on the trees. Here's how the rut works, all that stuff. And then I'm out there, and then I'm like, if I saw one and I shot it and it drops, or it runs off and drops, whatever, I don't know how to clean it. And I don't want to be that guy that has to take a deer into, a butcher and says, "Hey, I shot this and I didn't take anything out of it. Can you do that for me?" I want to know how to do that myself, and I'm not going to go out and kill an animal just so I can practice it on my own. I would rather be shown, because that's fucked up. Yeah, I don't agree with, like, I'm a huge animal person. I love all animals. I get a little teary-eyed if I run over a bunny. I'm one of those people. But it's when there's a purpose for it, yeah, like it makes sense. Like if you're obviously you're helping the herd, and you're feeding yourself and you're utilizing all parts of it, makes sense. So I'm not going to go out there just to kill a deer fucked up gutting that one, so I'll just leave it here and go shoot another one. That's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very cool that you, like you said, you're able to take something that we've all learned and still continue that camaraderie with friends in that situation, because like you said, a lot of people don't have that good feeling about walking in a wedge in the wood line. Not at all. It's always going to be a bad thing, but you guys turn it into a positive, and that's something that's very important. It's a good way to process the things that you've done before. It's not always about war. It's sometimes it's just about walking in the woods, man, and
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. So you were, so, so your second deployment, you go to Afghanistan. Um, what year was that? You were there for OEF 11.
Yeah. Man, that was a whole different beast. Um, the most that I saw in Iraq was, um, if I remember correctly, one of the drivers of the semis we were escorting, he rolled his semi and like broke his leg, and we medevaced him. I got to see like that kind of pain, and then we saw like an IED stuffed in a camel's ass in like the median. So Iraq to me was just kind of like a lot of hard work, and then Afghanistan, like, was a big wake up call, man. Our first mission, we lost 4 guys. They were killed. 2 other guys were sent home for injuries. Uh, man, that was tough. That was Melton, Tucker, Presley were our guys, and Staff Sergeant Self was from the other unit, and he was actually scheduled to leave and go home the next day. And
Hmm.
I don't think that he was even supposed to be on that mission. I think he stepped in. I feel like he just had more experience, and he was just kind of a leader, like stepping in, like, "Yeah, I got this. You go. We're about to leave. Like, I'll take this."
Mm.
And man, I'm sorry that happened to all of them. Uh, After that, we got shut down as a platoon. We didn't have enough guys to conduct route clearance or vehicles. And then, man, that was probably like the biggest explosion I think I've seen in person. Yeah, they had like been deep burying. Forget what they call. Yeah, deep bury. They basically dug this tunnel from the farm fields to the highway, and then planted it underneath the culvert. So when we inspected the culvert, uh, it was all good. Looked perfect. Nothing looked suspicious. And man, they got hit, and it was like the whole highway minus the shoulders. It was just this massive crater, dude. It was probably like
Hmm.
20 feet deep, and it was just massive. The whole entire highway was just one big crater.
Mm.
It was crazy.
Dude, that is wild. We didn't see anything like that in Iraq. Like we had IEDs, like the nothing with that kind of destruction. Not from them anyway.
No, not at all.
We had what's in our arsenal, and we were causing all kinds of destruction with that. But I mean, at best, we would see daisy chained IEDs every 5-10 meters. 5 or 6 of them daisy chained together. But they're not causing that kind of damage. I think the biggest IED I remember coming across was 2 155s and 2 105s linked together. That EOD came out and put some C4 on and dispatched, but nothing like that. Good Lord. That's a fucking massive explosion. I mean, like there's no getting away from that when that goes off.
No, no, it threw their RG pretty far. It kind of blew everything off the RG, and um, threw someone through the hatch that was closed, broke it open. Like, it was pretty bad.
Huh. And so that was right in the early days of your deployment?
That was our first mission. Yeah.
Good Lord. Way to set the tone. You know what I'm saying? Like what is the feeling after that? Like, because you're there for another, how long was that deployment? A year?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your first mission out, you got another year of this?
Yeah. It kind of, I don't know if you guys have probably felt this, but like it felt like there was this switch that flipped, and you're kind of concerned about your safety. And then all of a sudden you're like bloodthirsty, and you don't even care what happens, and you're just going, and you're trying to do what you need to do. It's kind of
Yeah.
how, mm, like, as soon as I saw that, man, like, yeah, I had like a humongous, I remember just like feeling this tremendous amount of adrenaline. And then I remember trying to use the Blue Force tracker screen, because I was the driver for the medevac vehicle. and I had actually wanted to be up front, and I'm getting told, no, you're going to be the driver for the medevac, and you know, fortunately and unfortunately, I got put as the driver, and so when that was all happening, someone, I forget who, but someone came up and was like, "Hey, check this on the screen." I remember like my hands like shaking, just like it was uncontrollable. I was like, like I didn't know how to control it. It was the first time I'd felt feeling like this, and I remember thinking, like, why the fuck isn't the screen working? My hands are all like fucking shaking real bad, and I still get still feel something just explaining that day right now, and
Yeah.
Man, I feel it. I'm sitting here watching. For anyone who can't see, Derek looks like Jason Momoa in the face. He's fucking a burly looking dude, man. He's got a massive beard. He's got big hair. Handsome guy. And but as he was telling that story, you could look into his eyes like I'm looking into your face, and it was like you were reliving that whole thing all over again. Even though it was just like that, it didn't take very long for you to explain it, but it was like
You
every
were
when you think about that, you really literally it was like you relived it, and we just watched you sit through it.
you were
And
there. Yeah, you were there.
that's
definitely the worst days now for sure.
That's how that goes, man. Like you can't experience shit like that and then not relive it. You really can't. I mean, you get better at telling the story. You know what I'm saying? As a drill sergeant, like I made it my personal mission to like give these kids every bit of training that I could and every bit of experience that I had, so that maybe whenever they got downrange, I remember when drill sergeant told me this. He was in a similar situation, and maybe it helps, right? So I got really good at telling those stories, the combat stories, the hard ones that we don't really want to talk about, because that's the reality of war, and that's the reality of a life of a soldier, regardless of your MOS. And so I got really good at telling those stories, but that doesn't mean that like, I mean, I can think of a story like you talked about, like the moment when that switch flipped in your head, and you from safety to bloodlust, and it's I mean, I can think of the moment when that happened, and I relived that moment when it happened, and like you just and it's not, it never goes away. You just get better at telling it, or you don't ever tell it again. I disagree with that. I think we should talk about this kind of stuff, which is the whole point of the show anyway. But because I mean, the more we talk about it, the more we process it, right? Early on when Tyree and I first started doing the show, we spoke with a lot of dudes from our deployment in 04, and we were talking about all the combat that we saw that year. We were busy. We were very busy in 2004, and one of the comments that we got, one of the reviews, I guess you could say, that we got is from a Marine who said they didn't even know they could talk about this stuff. They didn't know that they could openly talk about their experiences, and it just never occurred to them. And and it's kind of true. I remember when I came back from when I left active duty in 05, talking to people about Iraq was pointless, right? Because they didn't understand, and they want to understand. Some of them have good intentions. They want to understand, but like you try and explain it to them, and you just can't. You can't. If I had never seen an explosion, and I had never seen something like that, even on a smaller scale, happen, there's no way I can understand. I can't even understand what you went through, even though I've been in similar situations, because I don't know. It's a weird thing. My point is though, like I shut down about it for a while, and it ate me up. I did. I stopped talking about it completely, and I noticed that I was talking about it initially so much that it was kind of making people feel uncomfortable around me. That's the vibe that I got. So I stopped talking about it a lot, and then I struggled with it a lot, and I started to develop my own little problems, and then but once I became a drill and I understood the importance of talking about it from their perspective, and then it just, the side effect was it helped me work through it. And then doing the show has been really beneficial. But like the whole point is basically we got to talk about this stuff, because this is the stuff that like we live with. This is the stuff that's in our minds. It's cliche to say, but like, you see somebody with that 1,000-yard stare, they're thinking about something. They're taken back to somewhere. and they're reliving whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, if we can relate to those people, if we have similar experiences, man, you know, if it's your friend, like fucking you want, hey man, you want to talk about it? You know? So that's that and first mission out. Good Lord.
Yeah. So, okay, first mission, it's terrible, but the switch is flipped. What goes on next?
Okay, so after that mission, so we get back and everyone's pretty emotional. Then they sat my platoon in a room with a bunch of chaplains, and you don't know what you don't know. And I think there was a couple of new ones in there, and it felt very. It didn't feel organic or genuine or sincere. It felt like they were just reading off some piece of paper instead of just talking to us like we're humans, and we all are. And that was kind of upsetting, but whatever. It's in the past. And everyone learns, and everyone's got to learn eventually. And it's not always pretty when you do. So the base had a kind of like a send off ceremony. Um, they actually waited for us to get out of that meeting, and everyone was on the flight line. There was Afghans there. There were Romanians, and then of course our guys. We were all there, kind of saluted them as they were carried to the Black Hawk and flown away. And then after that, they kind of shut our platoon down for a while because we just didn't have the manpower to do missions. And so, in being in a sapper company, almost everyone there is a combat engineer. But then you have like your construction engineers as well. And so we essentially did a bunch of cross training with those guys, learned how to use like the heavy machinery. And then from there, we got moved. So that was Fob Logman, and then we got moved from Logman to Massamgar, and that was an interesting short time there. Pretty cool. Uh, we moved there, and then I think it was our first morning. I woke up and there was just like this shit ton of gunfire and explosions, and so I came out of the tent, um, like locked and loaded, ready to go. It's the funniest shit, right? There's these the Canadians were there, and they're a bunch of dudes like no shirts on their strikers, like fucking yeah, fuck yeah. I'm like, what the fuck is happening, right? All I'm hearing is a shit ton of gunfire, shit ton of explosions, and so we're kind of like at the top of this small mountain, and I see them looking this way, and they're cheering, and I look and I see people around the fob cheering too, and then I look out, and uh, there's like an A-10 coming down, just freaking annihilating this compound, dude. Just in front of there was like a small river, and then there's a bridge, and it was like off to the left a little bit, and I think it was Fob Wilson was another like massive fob close to Massamgar. And I mean, I just remember watching that, um, and it was pretty cool. Unfortunate. Uh, Humans got to do that shit, but yeah, it was like a pretty badass experience. And I remember we were just kind of there for a few days, and then we were kind of just working out, eating food, and I guess decompressing. And then they restructured our whole company, and they switched me from first platoon to fourth platoon. And then I forget what base it was called, but it was like a fob that was right outside Kandahar Airfield, and it was super small. We were there, and then we started doing route clearance convoys into Panjway, which is like, apparently it's like the spiritual birthplace of the Taliban, and that was pretty was pretty weird because they didn't really mess with us for a while. I think they were studying us. And then um, on August 23rd, 2011, that's when I got blown up. And I was a Husky vehicle operator. For those of you that don't know what that is, it looks kind of like a giant grasshopper. And then it's got these massive panels on the front. Um, and you lead the convoys. You're essentially looking into the ground for anomalies, and then you mark it or you call people up, and they'll come mark it. It just depends on like what gear you had on your truck at the time. Um, so we were doing a route clearance patrol into Panjway, and we got new orders that we were going to do a foot patrol with the Army, infantry, and some Afghan counterparts. And so we pulled into I don't remember what cop it was. We pulled. It was super small. We pulled in there, did a little powwow, and then when I went to lead the convoy back out of the place, my steering broke, and so I had to stop the convoy. I tried jumping into a first gen striker. At that time, those were getting ripped up pretty bad from even small blasts, especially if they were underneath them. And then it was like right in the time Army was just transitioning from first gen to second gen. And Gen 2 had the V holes. And my unit knew about that. And they're like, no, fuck that. Get out of that truck. Get in the RG-31. And then got in that vehicle as a dismount. And then it was like 20 or 30 minutes later on the mission, like, or from what I can remember, it was like 20 or 30 minutes later. We got hit. Um, it was set off by the enemy. And at first we thought it was something. And, we rolled over it with our mine rollers, investigated it. We're like, oh, I don't think it is. And then the guy behind me, the guy in um, the furthest seat back in the vehicle, Sergeant Stephen Jackal, he confirmed that it was a bomb. And then by that time, he said, "All right, guys, pull forward." It was like right after that, like the enemy set it off on us, and yeah, that led me to the long journey I've been on.
About how far away from you were the blast?
Where'd that happen in relation to you?
Yeah.
Right underneath my seat.
Jesus.
Yeah, and there's a photo. I gotta look for it, but there's like it looks like there's like this massive hole in the armor, and I was, dude, I was so fucked up and high from the drugs. Like the only thing I can remember was like the blur because I was looking out the left side of the vehicle because my gunner was facing right. So I'm watching this tree line, to see if anyone starts shooting at us, and no one did. And then all of a sudden it was this blur. And then I like opened my eyes and it was really quiet. Everything was dusty. My helmet was on my feet. Um, and I remember getting just so fucking pissed. I was so salty. I was like, fuck no, these motherfuckers did not give me that. Fuck these assholes, right? Like super pissed. And they got me. Um, but I remember doing that. And then there was like, I remember a lot of ringing in my ears. And then I remember kind of like being the first person that kind of got their bearings. So I was looking around, and it was almost like everyone was just asleep. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you're so disoriented. And I remember people started coming to, and three of the five of us got severely injured. Our gunner, Brandon Elliott, really solid dude. He broke his legs. He was trapped by the door. He was kind of like sitting on his broken legs. It was pretty shitty. Um, I remember trying to calm him down, like yelling at him, trying to, tell him, "Hey, dude, don't worry about it. Soon enough, we're gonna be on the beach drinking like margaritas, just chill." And I remember I didn't know I was injured until I tried to get up and give Sergeant Jackal, first aid. I remember seeing his femur sticking out, and I remember trying to get up, and that's when I felt like this fire through my body. I fractured my C2, my L3, my L5, broke my left femur, had shrapnel in my left hamstring. Um, Everything from like right below my calf muscle on my left leg was shattered up, and like the ball joints of your ankle were shattered. One of the ball joints actually blew off. A couple of my middle foot bones broke. My left foot exploded. And then my right ankle, uh, it broke as well. And then I had a TBI and eventually, diagnosed with PTSD. Man, yeah, I couldn't get up. And, you know, thinking back to, you telling your brand new soldiers, like all the war stories, my platoon sergeant, I remember him saying, we were all kind of like shooting the shit, late at night once, and he was like, "Yeah, of all the deployments I've done, I've never seen anyone put their own tourniquet on." And like, I heard that, and I tried putting my tourniquet on the wrong way, like an idiot. Don't do this. It's fucking painful. It's really painful. Um, and so I remember like trying to reach all the way down, and like everything was hurting so bad. And then I was like, "Fuck this!" And I opened it up, put it on. Um, and I could feel like my legs swelling, and I put it on, and man, that was really painful. Um, and then I remember like calming Elliot down, and then I remember trying to I just remember being a medic telling me like, "Dude, don't freak out when you get fucked up. Like, stay calm, or otherwise you'll bleed to death faster." So I'm like, okay, I'm leaning up against the window, like, just fucking chill, dude. Just chill, just chill. And I'm like, man, these motherfuckers need to hurry up. And dude, they were on their shit, man. They were on their A game for real. Cause I think I think from the time of getting blown up and getting everyone out of the vehicle, I think it was like 20 minutes, and then getting us medevaced, like the amount of things that had to line up perfectly, like all lined up. It was amazing. I didn't actually think about that until I was talking to someone else at this gym I work at now. You're like, man, think about all the things that had to line up for you to be here. And I was like, whoa, like this big tidal wave. So yeah, man, I remember that. And then I remember Steven trying to get out of the back hatch. Everyone else was gone. And then they came for me. And I remember I knew my leg was broken. I didn't know how bad, but I remember telling Patrick and Seacrest, two guys that pulled me out. It's like, hey, my leg's broken. Like, you're gonna have to help me get on this chair, and then you're gonna have to pull me out because my leg's like destroyed. And I remember don't I, I remember getting handed down off the vehicle, and then I had a nightmare once where I think I remembered it to where when I was getting pulled out, like my leg folded, and I remember waking up and screaming from that. Like I've had night terrors for quite a while, a couple of years um, after getting blown up. And
I'm
then,
sitting here squirming, man. I can't. My
dude, it was no joke.
I'm so
I'm
sorry, man.
almost sweating right now.
This is some fucking heavy stuff. Like, I can't even sit still. My gut is. I need a break. I'm not even joking, man. Give me a minute. You guys keep talking. I gotta go get some water because I need a second because I'm sitting here visualizing everything that's going on, and it's fucking heavy stuff. Like you said, it's a miracle to have you back here because it's as a bunch of circumstances that have to line up perfectly for you to get here. And me and Kevin, we talk about this all the time. Like, everything happens for a reason, even though it's fucking a terrible thing that happens. the outcome happens because everyone else got together and they fucking worked. And I'm glad they got to get together to work for you. But man, that's intense, man. I'm serious. I'll be right back. You guys, give me a sec.
So, no, it is. I, man, let me get my words together real quick too, because I'm coming in the same boat as Tyree. Like, I don't think people understand like what is going on here, right? Like, I mean, okay, I'm surely after listening to you tell that, like they understand what's going on here. Like, I'm honestly kind of at a loss for words. So in Iraq in 04, we didn't lose a lot of people. We had in our company we had one KA. It was actually fratricide. We had a couple Purple Hearts. We were mech infantry in an urban environment in the early days of the Iraq War, right? Like we had Bradley's 25 millimeter Bushmaster cannon on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like our rules of engagement were if it looks like they could be a bad guy, shoot him. So you know, it was a different vibe altogether. And so, you know, it's not to say that we didn't see that kind of stuff, but it was typically inflicted upon the enemy, and we weren't really too concerned with, you know, how they got patched up if they put a tourniquet on correctly and all of that stuff. But I do find it really interesting, and it says a lot about a person to go through that, and before you even realize that you're impacted, that you're injured, you're checking on other people, like you're making sure that everyone else there is okay. And the fact that you had this like this in that moment, this level of clarity, I guess you could say, to like, okay, I remember when Sergeant so and so said, I've never seen somebody put on a tourniquet. I remember when this doc said to maintain your calm in those situations because it can increase your heart rate and you can increase your blood flow for your if you have like arterial bleeding. So to be in that situation, because I mean I can, you know, it's hard to put yourself there if you've never been through it, if you've never been wounded, if you've never seen an explosion, but it's hard to say, oh yeah, no, I would totally remember these things. You know, when's the last time do you remember a time in CLS training or out in the field where you're like, okay, if you happen to be in a vehicle and it hits an IED and you get your leg blown up, what's the first thing you do? Like that's very specific training that we just don't do. So for you to like have that in those moments, like the you talk about when you were in Alaska and you wish you had spent more time training and honing your craft. Like it takes a high level of training to do what you did anyway. So, I mean, you maybe this is the wrong wording, but like you did the best things, you did the right things in that situation. You know, you made sure everybody was good. You maintained your calm. You applied a tourniquet, you know, your immediate first aid. You did all the things that you could do within your power. That's incredible. Especially for somebody who's gone through that, you know.
I'm back.
I didn't really think, man. I just remember like it was just like this voice in my head. It brought those two things up, and when you see your buddy like freaking out, like it makes you feel something real heavy, and man, just sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can remember on patrol, one of our dudes got shot in the back. He's a Purple Heart, and it was a grazing wound. We didn't know that at the time. It was a perfect shot too, man. Like the bullet came in between his shoulder and his body armor, like that small space, just wedged right in there, drove right across his shoulder blade, and then lodged into the soft Kevlar of the body armor, like a 1 in a billion shot.
Right,
You know?
where it's at aim point too.
Yeah, it was
Crazy.
incredible. Obviously, in the moment, we didn't know that that's what happened. We just knew that he got shot, and that, you know, it's time to go, you know, kill everything. And you know, it is, you can't help. I mean, okay, in those situations, you have to revert back to your training. You can't sit there and dwell on what just happened. Man, so and so got shot. I wonder if they're okay. Blah blah blah. You still got to scan your sector. You are still in danger. And so for them to get to you guys, get y'all out of there, and get y'all like medevaced out like in a short time frame, man. Like that's just soldiers doing soldier things. That's just, you love to hear it, and and you hate to hear it in those circumstances. You know what I mean?
You take your training seriously and take yourself seriously.
Man. And if that's, yeah. No, and you're right though, because you go back to Alaska. We go back to when he and I were in Germany. We did the same thing, man. We spent a ton of times touring all the bars in Schweinfurt and Würzburg and Frankfurt and Nuremberg and wherever else. But like, you know, could we have been taking our training more seriously when we were in the field? Were we really taking our training serious? Was I really trying to shoot better? Was I really trying to like maneuver better? You know what I mean? Or could I have done a little bit more? Could I paid a bit more attention? And it's funny because when you were talking about that, it's like we don't really, in some cases, we don't really, you know, take it serious. But when you consider what our job is, you would think we would take it serious.
Super.
Right? That's fucking hilarious.
Oh yeah, if I don't do my job right, I could die, my buddy could die, but fucking, you know, I'm a 19-year-old dumbass. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
Okay, let's take another shot. Yeah, shit.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Um, fuck, there were even times in Iraq where we were like, you know, but that was probably due more to complacency or whatever.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay, so end result, you get out of there. I assume you're flown back to Landstuhl at some point over in Germany, and then probably ultimately back to the U.S. at Walter Reed.
Mhm. Oh no. Okay, so I had 4 surgeries in country, and then 2 more in Landstuhl, and then I had so I went. I forget if I was in Bagram or Kandahar. I don't know. Dude, I was so high. Like I
In and
woke up,
out, in and
I
out.
got my Purple Heart. I went back to sleep. I woke up. I was getting loaded on a giant plane. I'm assuming it's a C-17. Fell asleep. Um, and then I remember driving on some highway in Germany, and then I remember getting woken up and getting a sponge bath, and then like after that, uh, like seeing my there was like 2 other guys in my hospital room. The guy next to me, and then um, I remember like getting kind of talked to by this officer. I think he was one of the surgeons. Um, Thanks for not hammering me, sir, because he basically told me before the surgery, like, hey, you might not wake up with your leg, and whatever I'll say it. I basically was like, sir, if I don't wake up with my leg, I will fucking hop around this hospital looking for you, and I will fucking kill you. And he's like, I'm gonna chunk that up to the morphine, man. And I'm like, no disrespect, sir. Like it's kind of hard when getting told someone is gonna chop your leg off, you know, like sorry, sir. Thanks for understanding and letting that one slide. Um, so I remember that, and then I remember doing one of this therapy where like the nurse, like my leg had so much trauma in it, it basically like stuck straight. It wouldn't bend at the knee anymore, and my knee was fine, and it was like weird, you know. And so she was like bending on it, and eventually it worked itself out. And then I went from Landstuhl, Germany to Fort Lewis, Madigan Army Hospital. Had some great surgeons there. And then I had 5 surgeries there. Um, and then I opted to, the Army had like this policy at the time. I don't know if it still does, but if you're going to get retired, you could retire from the base closest to home. That way your family has it easier coming to and from to visit you. Your support network's a little bit stronger. So I went to Fort Campbell because home was, Chicago area. And I was only in Campbell about a month and finally went home. And like the first day I was walking up the stairs, I broke my ankle. I didn't think I broke it. I slipped on the stair and landed. And I was like, oh shit, that hurt. The next day, my ankle was like 4 times the size it was. It was like red and super hot and just severely swollen. What ended up happening is I had a massive tissue and bone infection. So I had two emergency surgeries there. Yeah, it was either 2 or 3. They basically cleaned out my leg and there was like these big holes in it. And then
So you still have your leg at this point.
yeah, so I had my leg maybe 18 and 19 months. And then
So
yeah,
and at this point, before the breaking your ankle, you're already at 10 plus surgeries
well,
for reconstruction and all that. And then you break your ankle and you have 2 or 3 more.
oh, we're not even done yet. Yeah. Kind of like halfway through. Well, a little bit more than halfway. So thankfully one of the resident surgeons there was like best friends with um the guy that ran the orthopedic surgery department in at Fort Sam. They I think they went to school or they did time together. But he said, "Hey man, I know you were talking about like the Ideo brace," and he's like, "Funny thing you say that. Like somebody I know like runs the orthopedic surgery down in Fort Sam where they do those braces." He's like, "If you want to do that, you're gonna have to move there." And I was like, "Too easy, sir. Like let's go." And so I got moved down to Fort Sam in June or July of 2012, and then I got retired out of there in 14. But I went through even more surgeries. I'm the type of person that kind of goes hard when I work out, and so in physical therapy, I broke my tibia and fibula riding the bike.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn, man. Oh, fuck.
It's so gnarly how it happened too. I was literally just riding a bike, the sit ones, and like the screens in front of you. And my left foot like slipped off the pedal and I went to time it. And when I hit it, I heard like a crack. And like at that time, I'd been like working out pretty hard with a lot of pain. And I knew, okay, when I get to this pain level, all right, it's about that time to like chill and go back to the barracks room and just lay down, elevate my leg and all that. So I was like, all right, that's enough for today. I got up and I walked out of there, and like even the therapists were like, "Yo, like what's going on with your leg?" Because my leg was like instead of being straight, it was kind of like crooked. It
Yeah,
was bent forward a little, and I couldn't really tell from my angle.
that's fucking crazy.
And they were like, you know, are you good, dude? And I was like, yeah, I'm good, man. It's just a long day in the gym. And they're like, oh, okay, you're walking on it. Well, I was not good. My bones basically fractured completely across, and like they were pretty jagged, and so it was like kind of like that, and the jagged was holding it, and I had kind of like learned how to walk pretty smoothly without applying too much pressure on my left side, and so that kind of saved me. But the next morning, the pain was like still like 100 out of 10. So I was like, all right, I'm going to the ER, and as soon as they took the X-rays, they're like, hey, we need to put you in surgery like right now because your leg is broken. Like I don't know how you did this, um, and I explained it to them, and so I had more surgeries. I had a total of like 2 metal frames installed on my leg. The first one was on my femur, and these are external frames that are like drilled into your bone, and they're coming out of your leg, right? And so I had one on my femur, and then uh, a bunch of them on my lower leg, getting the bones like back into the correct position and keeping it there. And then that was the first one in the very beginning. And then after I broke my leg again, I got this. We called them the halo frames.
Oh man.
And,
Yeah, I know about those, man. I've seen those before.
they're super gnarly. They're drilled into your bones, and the gnarliest part for that was I had one like drilled into my toes and my foot. So there was like these pins going in the tips of each one of my toes, and you could walk on it, which
Oh,
was
Fuck that.
yeah.
Jesus,
No.
I'm out.
Just dude, you can describe that to me and like, you know what? You could just have the whole leg. Take the whole thing. Get the fuck out of here. You're not gonna drill
Oh
things
man.
into me. Fuck out of here. God.
It was definitely something
Hey,
brutal,
Whew.
but it
all right.
wasn't too bad.
Hey, well, wait a second. Again, y'all. All right. That is
Yeah, it was
I'm
fucking.
sitting here listening again. I've seen some really bad things before. Um I've done some really bad things to people before, but the recovery, man, the surgery after surgery. I mean, you have scaffolding on your leg, and eh, that's a lot to endure, man. That's a lot to mentally get through, not just the pain, but you got to relearn everything. And
Yeah.
man, hats off to you because that's fucking. I can't even sit through the story because I feel like I'm gonna throw up. But you had to sit through everything.
Oh man.
I feel like a weenie. But
Honestly, I was good while you were talking about breaking your tib fib and all that stuff. But as soon as you start talking about drilling things into your toes, dude, they made movies. I think that was in Hostel.
Oh really?
As a torture technique, man. Oh
Oh,
my God. Listen, and I gotta
yeah.
tell you, I got a pedicure once. Once. That shit hurt. All right. So I got sensitive little toes. Fuck, man.
just
Yeah, no,
everything
for
about
real, dude. Like
everything,
you
man. Ugh. Shattered foot with
It was a
little man.
interesting time. So
it's a good way of putting it, I guess.
Yeah, that's a hell of a way to put it. That's a fucking hell of a way to put it, man.
But you still got more surgeries to go, right? After they
yeah,
torture your toes.
so they put that in, and then when that came out, I actually had two, like I got two more infections, and I had to live with a like a PICC line in my bicep right here.
Mm.
And basically, it's like a massive IV that like goes to right outside your heart, and so you're sleeping with this thing on 24/7 for a long time, and for weeks, sometimes months, and then you're constantly getting fed antibiotics. So I had a total of 19 surgeries, and then the 18th one, I kind of got to this point where like, look, I'm done being a fucking professional like hospital patient. I'm fucking sick of this shit. Like I need to get on with my life. And I started talking to my therapy, PT and nurse case manager, and just my medical team. And I remember one of the guys was like, "All right, look, here's your options. We can wait for this infection to go away. We can go through the IDEO brace program, see if your leg will continue to break or not break." I mean, at one point, dude, I had like 26 screws and two plates in my left leg
Mm.
holding it all together. So there was just a shit ton of holes. And so it was really compromised. And then they were like, yeah, we can do this brace program, wait for your infection to go and heal, and or we can just cut it off and move the fuck on. Yeah. Okay. He's like, but look, once you do the latter, like there's no going back. Like not even mentally. Like you cannot fucking regret it for like 1 second. And I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah, let's cut it off. Like I need to get the fuck on with life. And because I addressed my healing as what is the fastest way I can get back to the battlefield? Even with the PTSD. And at the time, I didn't even know PTSD was like a disqualifying thing.
Still, you're still trying to get back out there.
Oh, fuck yeah, man. I mean,
After all that, you're like,
oh yeah.
give me a robot leg, send me back to war.
My biggest thing is like, I wish I had more time.
Oh,
service, and I wish I had more time to do more things. And you know, I'm surrounded by a lot of combat veterans and just veterans in general where I'm at now, and I hear, we all give each other shit, but man, people go through some really cool ass unique experiences. I'm like, man, that would have been so fun to go through, like even
Yeah.
just peaceful or wartime. And so that was kind of my mindset. Um,
I just got to ask real quick before you go on. Are you sitting in a chair or are you sitting on your giant balls? Like that is insane. Like you go through this 19 surgeries, uh, and you're still like, and physical therapy and breaking bones and more hardware in your leg than at Lowe's, Home Depot, Jaegers combined, and you're still like, how do I get back over there?
yeah.
Like,
All
so seriously, what are you
top
sitting
off.
on right now? Good Lord.
uh, the chair.
Yeah, yeah. I like how you had to check there. Like, yeah, it's a chair. The balls are in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So,
God.
um, life without what now? What is the? It's not an easy thing to decide to say, hey, take this leg off or part of this leg off, because I believe is it below or above the knee?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Um. So to make that decision alone is everything, and now you have to live with that decision.
Yeah.
Um, less surgeries, I guess, but
Yeah.
what is life now?
I would say, man, it's significantly better.
Mm.
So funny story is I grew up in the Chicago area, and house music was created there in the mid '80s, and so it's on the radio stations. There's DJs all the time, and as a hobby, I would do that in the barracks room. Right? We'd be cleaning weapons. I'd bust out the DJ gear, open my barracks room door. We'd all gather around my room, clean weapons and shit, play music, and then as soon as work was over, I'd be blasting tunes in the barracks. Sorry to my fellow homies that didn't like it. Thanks for putting up with me. Um, but so when I got close to retirement, my leadership was like, "Hey, look, your medical appointments are slowing down. You got a lot of time. You need to find a job at least to like check the box while you're in. You're gonna get retired. You're not probably not gonna need a job." So I was like, "All right, I'll be a DJ." And my leadership is combat arms, and they're like, "Shut the fuck up." And I was like, "No, no, no, I'll prove this shit to you right now. Like I got like thousands of dollars worth of DJ gear in my barracks room right now." Like, and they're like, "All right, let's go." So I played for them for, it was like 10 or 15 minutes maybe, and they gave me the green light to do it.
Mm.
And so I started showing up to this local club called the Falls, San Antonio. Miss that club. Some solid people out there. And I just started talking to. They had like EDM nights on Thursdays, and I'd go out there and be like, "Hey man, can I just open? I'll do this for free. Like, just let me open, just play some music from like 9 to 10." And so he's like, "All right, show up next week and bring your music." And, so I showed up and got some people to dance, which is very rare at that time in San Antonio. And because EDM is like very, or was very small in San Antonio, compared to like hip hop and country
Mm.
uh, and like rock and all that. And so he kept inviting me back out, and that eventually turned into me playing later time slots, which eventually turned into like me headlining local shows. I got to I had a bunch of residencies throughout town. If you don't know what that is basically like you're the fucking DJ, like you're the head motherfucker, right? And it's your night and your party basically, and that was cool. It didn't really like go too great at the residencies. It always did better at like the local shows, just because residencies are typically like the industry people showing up. And since EDM was so small, it wasn't too many. But I also got to open up for like a shit ton of world famous artists. And the biggest show I got to play was Ultimate Music Experience. I think it was in 2014. and that was in Schlitterbahn. Um, and that was in South Padre Island. That was like, I think, a 15,000 person festival, and I was the last local artist that played right before Slander, the Chainsmokers, and then Steve Aoki. So it was like, it went from like Thursday night at 9 p.m. to that, and then at that time I was not really addressing my mental health appropriately. I was kind of fed up with the VA. They kept switching my therapists every few months, and then I kind of just said, "Fuck this, I'm out." Like, I'll go seek healing somewhere else, and which essentially landed me where I am now, dealing with the people I deal with. But I was really toxic back then, and I had to remove myself from all of that, man. Um, so it was fun while it lasted. Super fun.
It's a completely different life than
I did not
combat
see
engineer in
that.
Afghanistan.
Yeah, I've done some pretty interesting things, man.
That's wild as fuck, man. I didn't expect the
Yeah,
command
so
they spin on the ones and twos, and you could
that's a whole
Yeah,
ass left turn, man.
fuck.
yeah. I've
That's
done.
fucking awesome though. Like 15,000 people from hey, can I just spin for an hour?
Yeah. Well,
That's
when when I saw when you sent your email and you're like, this is where you're gonna email me at, and I was like, DJ. I was like, is that what he goes by? Maybe that's like DJ is his first name, Derrick James or something.
No,
Like, no.
just me being lazy, not creating a new email account.
Okay, so all right. So you're DJing. You say, well, shit's not going the way I need it to go in my mental health realm, and you exit that program, that stage of your life, and you get to where you're going now. So what's going on there? And I assume that's where we currently are. Yeah.
So at that time, I got into DJing. I was also getting into sled hockey. My physical therapist was one of the coaches, and we were both Blackhawks fans. And so we would be talking about hockey during PT, and he kept like, "Dude, you need to come play with us." And I'm like, "Man, I don't know anything about sled hockey." And he's like, "Well, it's the same thing as hockey. You're just in a sled, and you're propelling yourself with these two small sticks that got ice picks on them, and you're holding the blade. And then when you shoot, you just slide your hand down and shoot. And it is hard, man. It's fucking hard." Um, we um, we ended up actually winning the national championship in 2014 in the Tier 1 league, and that's the league with all the Paralympians. And shout out to freaking USA Hockey and all my old team members, because they got a dynasty going on right now.
yeah. That's fucking yeah.
Yeah, they're kicking some ass. So respect, dudes. I was not as good as them. I was like, I was getting, I was starting to get all right, because I feel like it is definitely a steep learning curve, especially if you're not always playing it. But I got out of that, and then I was in a really, really, really dark place. Just like kind of avoiding like everything, everyone. Um, I would I would seek healing. Like, there's these events all over the country. There's so many nonprofits now. That's kind of the route I went. So I would just be at home, isolating, smoking a shit ton of weed, uh, like a lot. I'm talking like I had a triple percolator bong, actually multiple. They all broke. Um, I'd be like ripping on that thing all day long, fucking off, just kind of avoiding dealing with shit, and because I was very discouraged by the VA. How do you get past the first event when that's all they ask you about every single appointment, and then a month later it's somebody else, and you're restarting the whole fucking process over again? It's like, well, this is why we don't fucking get any help, because you guys keep fucking us. Like, there's no time to actually build a relationship, become comfortable with people, and then and like move forward. It's always the same first thing every single time. And so since then, I haven't really dealt with the VA for counseling. I've actually gone to different organizations, um, which is awesome. And for anyone that's active duty, military, first responder, I encourage you to seek organizations like this out. At the time they were called 22 Kill. They're now called One Tribe. They basically give you 6 counseling sessions for free, and then every one after that is like $20. And then your counselors are either retired military first responder or a family member of military first responder. So they completely understand, or like have a way better understanding than the average Joe out, out on the street. So I just, man, it was a couple years of just darkness, man. Just going on these surf trips with Operation Surf. God bless those people, man. They're freaking awesome. Um, and man, it's hard to remember that time. It was just so freaking high the whole time. Just trying to numb everything. And so yeah, I would be isolating, or I would be seeking a trip with a nonprofit, trying to get advice from people who, in my opinion, like actually give a shit. Like they have all the time in the world to do whatever it is they want, but they're here right now, like breathing love and life into me, and trying to give me advice about how to move forward. And so I did a lot of that. And then 2017 rolls around, and I'm with my ex-girlfriend. Um, man, I definitely put her through some shit, and kind of out of respect for my wife right now. And once that ended, like communication stopped, and never got a chance to say sorry. So if you ever see this, I'm really sorry for putting you through all that horrific shit. Sorry about that. Man, I never like was violent with other people. I was violent towards my own property, and freaking just destroyed my house, man. And I learned in therapy, like when you don't address your mental health, it will dictate your life without you realizing it. Short fused, you get irritated, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, whatever you want to call it. You become violent, you become an alcoholic, you turn to hard drugs, like freaking kick doors off its hinges with your prosthetic, like I did. You do all sorts of stupid bullshit because you don't handle your mental health. And so I learned that the hard way. And sorry, everybody. Seriously, I really am. So, you know, we go on this vacation, and I'm fucking vacationing hard, man. I am like tipsy, with my shades on, and the water. I'm in the water. The water's right here. My drink's right here. Just sipping on it, looking out into the ocean. And my ex comes running up and's like, "Hey, you need to come talk to me, or you need to come to the bar. There's a guy talking to me about this gym for disabled veterans." I was like, "Oh, that sounds cool." And I'm like, "I don't want to fucking work out." Like here's my mindset, like walking over there, hobbling lazy ass to the bar. And I ended up meeting a former NFL player named David Roach. And he talked to me about this gym called the Adaptive Training Foundation. And it's this gym for disabled people, and it's here in Carrollton, in the Dallas Fort Worth area. And we're both drinking, and he's like, "Man, my boy runs this gym, and it's in Dallas. Like, are you in Texas?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in San Antonio." He's like, "Dude, whatever it is you do, just take a weekend and go up there and just see what this gym is about. Just check it out, please." And so we exchanged information, and I thought it was like, "Oh, we're just drunk. Oh, we're both gonna forget about this shit." No, I mean, he was for real, and thank God for it, because and this is in the Cayman Islands, by the way. So like divine intervention, all the shit that had to line up, yeah, for real, divine intervention. And so it was like a few weeks after it, I'm driving, and I get a call from David Vobora, which is they both played in the NFL on the Rams together. And he's like, "Yo, like I can't believe my teammate in the Cayman Islands. What the hell?" Like just kind of like just super stoked. And He goes, "Hey, I got one last space in this class. Do you want it?" He's like, "Our program is 10 weeks long, or it's 9 weeks long. And it's just, we're training our ass off for those 9 weeks. And then we go on like a redeploy trip. And then we apply the strength that we gained during class in the mental clarity. And, we'll save you the spot." So I'm like, well, shit, I got nothing else with my life to do. So fuck yeah, I'm there. So I showed up, man. And I was like 247 at the time. Yeah, I lost like 33 pounds in that first class. And then they were like, "Look, man, you're doing fantastic. Your foundation is kind of being laid out. You know, we really think you could do even better if you came through another class like right away." I was like, "All right, sure, like okay." So I did that. Went back to San Antonio for a little bit. Um, and then during that time, I had broken up with my ex, and then I went. So I did class 10 and 11, and then there's a couple classes that passed, and then I redid and went back for class 15 at the new gym, and it's actually where I met my wife now, and yeah, man. So I met my wife, started dating her. Um, we eventually got married 3 years later. I asked her to marry me on our 2-year anniversary. And then in that whole time of being at the gym, I kind of stuck around, and um, unfortunately, it was like right before, I think it was right before class 15. Um, the Sergeant Stephen Jackal guy I mentioned earlier, he committed suicide, and it was a really really heavy time. Um, Still is. I feel like the pain never really goes away. Just you learn how to carry it better. You're a little bit stronger. You can carry it a little bit better. Um, yeah. So that happens, and class is finished, and I'm kind of going through life back in San Antonio. I'm like going back and forth to my girlfriend's house here in the DFW area, and um, man, so okay, the story "Shit Happens" is pretty funny. Shit happens in my life a lot for some reason. So my wife comes and visits me in San Antonio, and sorry, babe, if you don't want anyone to know this, but they're gonna know. So we go out drinking, and we come home, and we fall asleep in front of the fireplace, and then it was like an hour or two later, I wake up and I hear noise, and I'm like, "Oh fuck, it's on!" Like someone's breaking in. I grab my pistol. I throw my leg on, grab my pistol, and I'm like very slowly like maneuvering to a better position. And within like 4 steps, I stepped in water, and my whole house. I found out when I turned the lights on, my whole house is flooded. Like my wife went to the restroom. It didn't go down like it should have, and
Oh man.
yeah, and
No.
it ended up being like $51,000 worth of damages, and
Ugh.
nowhere to go. Like I would have probably gotten really sick if I had stayed in the house. And so she's like, "Well, just come stay with me." So I did. Moved some of the stuff that I had left out to the DFW with my wife, and stayed with her. Eventually got that house sold, and now we've been together for just a little over 5 years in total time. Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
I wonder if when they sold the house, if like in full like a full disclosure, they were like, "So it's water damage. Oh, did it like rain in the house? Is there like a leak in the house? No, no, it's not. That's not what happened."
Oh, well, thankfully, so it's kind of crazy because like um everything got replaced. Like all the walls, the floor, cabinets, lighting, like it was pretty impressive. It looked really good. Um, but man, it was a hell of a time going through all that. Yeah.
So you're married 5 years to now, and everything's going amazing. You're down there in the Dallas area, kicking ass and taking names and doing all these other cool things. And so you have kind of, after going to the Adaptive Training Foundation, going through them, like you've kind of decided to take that up as part of like that's what you do now, right? You're a part of that.
Yeah. So how that ended up happening is basically I knew this community was good, right? And I was like, you know what? I need to be here. I need to be around a good, positive community. These are people that are way different than the nightlife community. Um, and I I would be working out, and they don't really allow people to do this. I don't know why they let me do it, but thanks for letting me. I would be working out when another class was there, and I would be like encouraging the other athletes, like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, dude, just keep going." And then I'd be getting after it on my own, like. And so I started seeing some trainers struggle with some other amputees that were trying to learn balance. And I surf and I snowboard, so I'm pretty good at balance. And I would go up to them and like give them a couple pointers after watching them for a while, and then their athlete would get it, and they would be able to balance using their prosthetic too. And I was like, man, I can fucking do this shit. Like I've been an athlete my whole life. Learned how to weightlift. Took class for it. Like I've been an athlete since like 3 years old. Like, fuck, bring it on. Like, let's do this, you know? And so I told him, I was like, hey, or I asked him, I was like, hey, can I be a trainer here? And they were like, yeah, we'll put you in as a support trainer for a few classes, and if you like it and you feel comfortable, like, you can become a head trainer here. And I was like, all right. And so I did a few classes, and I loved it, man. I fucking loved it because that place is like there's never a shortage of like witnessing miracles there. Like people who have Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is your um, immune system attacking your nervous system, and basically like it can paralyze you. It can shut your lungs. It can stop your lungs from working, your heart from working. Like it can kill you. And so there's a guy in my class, Trent Fielder. He had that or has it, and he came in a chair, or he was using these like electronic powered braces to help him walk. And by the end of that class, he walked for the first time since getting it to his wife. And now he does like Ironman competitions.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like people like that show up to this place, and so you know, I became the head trainer or a head trainer there, and I got to work with a bunch of really cool people. I've been able to work with my buddy Desmond. He's this incredible artist, but he doesn't even have hands. His hands never fully developed, and this guy can paint like portraits. Like it's it's incredible. Trained a 6-year-old gentleman, Vaughn. He had a stroke. 60. He's in realty. He's a realtor, and while he was still having a stroke, he like closed this major deal in the hospital while he was going through it, and then he still plays polo on the horse. And even though he has like a loss of his, I think it was his left side, if I remember. And so you're training these people with these types of issues and to be performing at like high levels, you know. Um, it's incredible, man. And you get to see these people come in and they're very quiet in the very beginning, but by the time they leave, they're on fire. They're like, fuck yeah, what's next? Like, what other shit can I fuck up? Like, what can I get after? They're really getting after it in life, and yeah, man. So I love being there. It's important, you're literally kind of changing the world slowly, um, one person at a time. And I like to do it because I hate when people, I very much dislike That's a strong word. I really can't stand when people look at me and they're like, "Oh, he's missing a leg. He can't do shit." I'm like, "Dude, I'll fuck you up." Like I
Dude, you
will form you in the ring, wherever the fuck you need to do. Like I will do that. And
like you can scroll through your Instagram and see that you do more things, more activities missing your leg than 99% of the population with all their limbs.
yeah.
Like as I've seen you, there was a video of you deadlifting 315, surfing, what was it? Jujitsu. Um, you know what I'm saying? Like hunting, bow hunting, hiking. You're out doing things.
Yeah, I
It's
want to work it.
wild.
You know, and the only way to do it is like it's to just suffer, man. Is just grind through it. I don't. When I'm bow hunting, I'm not the fastest walker. I'm always the guy in the back now, which is like the opposite of how it was in the military. And so kind of like learning to accept, I'm that fucking slow guy now.
Yeah.
I can still do it, and that's all that matters to me is if I have that chance, like that's all I need. If there is a possibility, like that is all I need, and we're gonna figure it out, and we're gonna make it work, however it works, and yeah, that's like such an important attitude to have.
Dude, I agree. Like your story is incredibly motivating. And Tyree and I've had the great fortune of talking to some people on the show who like you make me feel lazy. Like you make me feel lazy. You know what I'm saying? Like not we all go through things, right? Especially those of us who served and deployed and we have experiences that we don't necessarily want to have. I would rather have them than some other random person. You know what I'm saying? But like I hear a story like yours and I'm like, fuck, man, what am I doing with my life? It's so cool that you're doing this, man. Like you're living your life. And and who knows, man, if you hadn't gone through what you had gone through, who knows what your trajectory would have been. Like where would you be now? Would you have met your wife? Would you be working with the Adaptive Training Foundation? um so it's like Tyree said, man, hats off to you, man, because like you're out there like kicking ass, dude. Like,
I
and
appreciate it.
I'm so happy that this is where you are, and that like and that you've turned it around, and like you've done it. I was gonna say by yourself, like the mental part of it, the mental aspects of it, pulling yourself out of the party scene because you're realizing this may not be ideal, um, and segueing into these other aspects of your life and these other things and getting hooked up with these other people. I mean, like you said in the beginning of the show, man, a lot of stars had to align to get you to where you are today, and I'm thankful for you for sure, man.
Appreciate that. I think a lot of it is divine intervention.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer now, and I've had two like really incredible experiences. I don't know where you guys are with faith, or you're not about it. That's okay. When I say like I saw like different nonprofits, one of them was American Warrior Association, and they're like a faith-based retreat. You go up in the mountains of Colorado, kind of disconnect for the week, and you do a little bit of horseback riding, some hiking, a little bit of archery. Um, and the first trip I've done with them, I had like an ingrown hair that turned into kind of like a large cyst, and that was like on the inside of my prosthetic. So it was like every time I walked, I was basically putting all my body weight on that, and it was fucking painful. It sucked. So don't worry, all the guys on that trip will give me shit about this. We did a hike on this mountain, and they were. I was just like super salty. I was that guy. I was that guy. And they're like, "Look, man, just go at your own pace. The group is gonna go." And it's like, all right. So there's another amputee, Chris Biggs. Unfortunately, he passed away recently. Um, God bless that guy, man. But him and I made it to the mountain, to the top, and then the rest of the group got there. the rest of the group got there, it started raining and hailing, and so we were just hiding under a bunch of trees. And once that all stopped, we started a campfire to cool off or to warm up, to warm up and dry off. And the leader Dandy was like, "All right, guys, we're gonna do a little meditation." And so, all right, and so we're like just watching the fire, and we're playing the music. I don't really know what to call that type of music, and just call it like yoga or meditation music. Very like spatial, atmospheric. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Hippie vibes, hippie vibes.
Kind of gets you in the mood, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, "All right, close your eyes." And so I'm just listening to the fire crackle and I'm listening to his music. And he goes, um, "Think about your favorite place in the world." And I'm like, "Fuck, I love the beach." And so I'm looking, and I'm just like my eyes closed, and I start seeing the beach, these really nice waves. I'm like, "Man, that's a nice left. I can totally surf these waves." Like, and and I look around, and there's like a jungle behind me, and there's like this never-ending beach. It's maybe like 40, 50 yards wide. And then there's like this massive mountain, single mountain behind me to my left. And a little more time goes by, and he goes like, what's the one thing, if Jesus could like help you with one thing right now, what would it be?" And I'm like, "Oh man, physically, well, I made it up the mountain, so I guess I'm okay there. But like emotionally and spiritually, I'm like, I'm dead, man. Like I'm just like, I really need help there." So that's what I thought of. Okay, so a little bit more time goes by, and then he goes, um, "Look around you, see if there's anything on the ground, see if there's people or animals, see if there's trash. Where like, what are you seeing?" And so, like, sitting in the sand, and by this time, I don't hear the fire. I just hear the waves, and I hear seagulls, and I hear the breeze. And I look, and I don't see anyone. I look this way, and I see a figure in the heat mirage, like way out there. Like, I don't know, but he was really far. And then I look back, nothing, and I look back again, and there he is. It's Jesus, and he's in a white robe, and he's got this green sash, and he walks up to me, and he holds his hand out, and he's almost like you're gonna, present someone with like a challenge coin. And then there's like instead of a coin, it's like this folded white cloth. And I go to accept it, and he hugs me, and he says, "You're gonna be okay, Derrick." And I freaking lost it, like emotional, waterfalling, everything. And after he hugs me, he puts his hands on my shoulders, and he just grins, and he turns to the jungle and walks away. And I sit down like, "Oh my god, what just happened?" Like I'm like blown away, right? And then all of a sudden I hear, "If you want to accept this gift that Jesus just gave you, you need to stand up and walk the path right now." And man, I see my prosthetic going to my other leg because that's how I get up. And I walk the path, and all of a sudden I hear, like, "Do you really want this to work? You got to run after him full speed, like with everything you got." And I just start sprinting, and I'm like throwing branches out of the way. And then all of a sudden I see him next to me sprinting with me. And then boom, it went dark. And then all of a sudden, sorry for throwing you guys out there like this, but like every single dude there was like crying, every single one. And I was like, "Oh man, you jokers aren't going to see me this ugly." I literally got up and walked through the woods like this, like crying my eyes out. And like how I didn't run into all the trees that were there's like blows my mind. But I got to this lake called Oyster Lake. For those of you in Colorado, I think it's Steamboat area. I think that's where Oyster Lake is. It's in that area, but it's on the mountain. And I got there, man, and I just remember sitting down crying, and I remember my vision became all this smoke, and it was almost like TVs that were surrounded by smoke came up, and they were my memories, and they were like these traumatic experiences, and every time one floated up into my view, it was like all that weight I could feel, like was almost like having an anxiety attack, 10,000 pounds in your chest, and then it dissipated. And every time that happened, it got lighter. And then the weight of that event like went away. And it did like a bunch of these. And then finally, the guys started calling me because I think I was gone for like 20 or 30 minutes. And man, when I finally came to and like regained my composure, I felt like $1,000,000, dude. Like when we left, I ran down the mountain. I didn't feel any pain. I felt like probably the best I've ever felt in my life. And I've felt like this level of peace and content and like comfort I've never felt before. And I was not running up the mountain. I was like in really bad pain. Um, Man, it was incredible. So since that time, a lot of things changed. Um, and that was the first of two times that I got to meet Jesus. And the second time I was going to um, going to an MRI appointment at the Dallas VA because I thought the mass in my pituitary gland had grown so much that it was now pushing on a nerve, which was causing me to see these like little specks of light in my vision. And I learned about that mass in 2014, and then in 2016 I checked on it and it was bigger, and then I kind of like ignored my medical appointments. Uh, I avoid hospital like the plague. I'm so over it. Like, I need
Yeah,
to.
yeah, I can imagine why.
And so I get to the VA and I'm already pissed because it's the VA. I'm fuck the VA, right? Like super pissed, super disgruntled. And they're like, yeah, we're an hour behind. They were 4 hours behind. And so my wife goes like, I text my wife. I'm like, these jokers don't see me in like the next 15 to 30 minutes. I'm out of here. I don't even care if I fucking brain tumor. Screw this, right? And so she goes, pray about it. And so I did. And it was like a few minutes later, a Vietnam vet missing the same leg on the same side sat right in front of me. And he starts talking to me about my leg. And I go from like super pissed to like joking around and happy. And then they called us back to the next waiting room. And I met the guy that actually made the contract for the US to get the Husky vehicles. And so I was a Husky vehicle operator, like the steering broke, and like that's why I'm here, like, and so like the amount of things lining up, right? And so I started talking to him about a bunch of stuff. I get called back to another waiting room, and then these guys, I want to say they're from like Desert Storm, maybe Vietnam, but they start giving me shit because there's like classic rock on the TV that it's from like back in the day. Like, what do you know about this, young blood? Like, and um, kind of goes, giving me crap. But so I get called to my last waiting room, which is right outside the MRI machine, and the nurse goes, "This is gonna take like 30, 45 minutes, and just stay still, and it'll be okay. It'll go by faster." All right. 10 minutes into this, I'm like freaking out, trying to box breathe. Like I'm like freaking some of my trauma is like being stuck in that vehicle and remembering that feeling. It was like 100,000 degrees in there. That's kind of how it felt in an MRI machine. And then there's like all these noises that sound like machine guns and shit. And it's like, oh man, put me in overdrive right now.
Whoa.
So I'm ready to hit the nurse button, and I call on Jesus, and man, boom, right back there on the beach. Jesus walking up real fast. He just shakes my hand, and I go, "You got me, Lord." And he goes, "I got you." And then I remember just like saying, I remember thinking back, like not asking for forgiveness, not saying anything at all to him the first time. And I'm like, "Lord, please forgive me for all these sins." And I just unloaded all of them that I could remember. And he goes, "Let's take a walk." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like an idiot, right? And he's like, "I'm sure." And so as we get up and we're walking the tree line, he tells me, "Hunt, hunt." And he's telling me over and over to hunt. And then he turns around and like knife hands me and he goes, "You need to take the boys and the girls hunting." And I was like, "All right, yeah, I could do that. This is actually what I really want to do." And now I have to do it because the man himself told me. And I remember like just telling him over and over, like, I wish I could talk to you about so much. Come to me in my dream, come to me in person, like, just come back, man. Like, please, like, I have so much to talk to you about. Well, and then I remember it feeling like we were getting to our destination, and I heard, oh, we're done. So in the span of like that 5 minute conversation, like 55 minutes passed. And I didn't realize that until after I was driving home, calling my wife, telling her about the story. Then a month later, I don't have the mass anymore in my pituitary gland. It's completely gone. So I was like, man, divine intervention, man. And it's kind of why I've been really, really geared towards doing these archery programs, is because I am trying to make hunters and take them hunting. And when you follow, I can't remember what verse it is, and but basically when you follow the purpose that God gives you, like, you will be blessed and He will open the doors that you need. And that's what He's been doing with at Adaptive Training Foundation. I talked to David War, the founder, and I was like, hey, whether ATF supports this or not, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start collecting archery gear, and um, and like, offline on our own time, I'm going to just have archery days, because I know there's a bunch of bow hunters and archers here already that compete and bow hunt. We're just going to do it on our time. He's like, hey, make a budget, see if we can help you out. So I did, and they were able to make a budget and buy a few compound bows for it. And then I also asked to step in to run the archery program for Operation Enduring Warrior. And that's a different nonprofit. They do a lot of like Tough Mudder, War Axe, and Spartan races. They do skydiving, and they do public speaking, and they also do archery. And they allowed me to come in and take that over. And this year was the first year we did that. And I try to focus mainly on like 3D archery, because I'm trying to build hunters, right? So training people, leading these programs, and trying to be a better husband. Kind of going through it right now with my marriage, but thankfully I would say I'm in the best situation to be in a shitty situation. It's kind of my outlook on it. But so a lot of really amazing things have been happening since those experiences, and since coming to the gym, and it's all just asking. That's it. Just asking, showing up for myself, and then them seeing me prove myself through my actions, and then seeing how like dedicated I am to archery. And like, I spent a lot of time during the quarantine learning about archery.
Yeah.
A lot.
So
I've tried it a few times, and I am terrible.
Yeah,
I hope you are.
never. All right, so we're I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm sorry for bailing out on that little bit, man. It was a bit much for me. I couldn't do it. But again, still, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Before I Forget. Please like, listen, share, and subscribe. Kevin, you got anything?
Derrick, really, man, I appreciate you coming on and telling your story, dude. Like, I know it was hard, reliving some of that, and I hope that, for anybody that listened, and that they learn that they can talk about it too, because we have to. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of what it is, doesn't matter how big or small our trauma is. Trauma is trauma, and we have to talk about it. We have to do something about it. We can't, resort to, patting ourselves with substance, or burying ourselves in some, particular lifestyle that detracts from it all. Like, you have to talk about it. You got to live through it. And the more we talk about it, the more we can help other people. And that matters a lot. And so I want to thank you again for coming on and talking about all that stuff, man. Like, it's been really good listening to what you had to say, and really appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate you guys. I do consider this an honor to be asked to be someone that speaks up about things, and for you to recognize the things that I'm doing, and I'm not out there like, oh, everyone look at me. I'm just trying to like live an example and just be like, hey, this is possible, man. So thank you guys, and thanks for what you've done, and thanks for what you're doing and giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely, man.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So again, thank you for listening to Before I Forget. Please like, listen, share, subscribe. Check out www.beforeIforgetthepodcast.com. And we will see you guys later.
Later, guys. Take care.
You too, man.